Hey guys, Roxbox90 here. This is my Omnath Locus of Mana deck tech for EDH. I haven't made it yet for a while because I've been really hoping to try and put the entire deck that I theorized originally together. Unfortunately, it's getting kind of hard to find all the cards. Excuse me. So I kind of just decided to put up as is. It plays really well. It's a largely 1 versus 1 deck, so if you're looking to play EDH that way, that's kind of the focus of it, because it's monocolored, it's only green, which makes it more difficult to play without control in a larger multiplayer setting. But 1v1, I think it's pretty good. It's played against a number of decks. You can use a multiplayer, just don't expect to be as strong as it would be single player. So the deck focuses on Omnath, who is, in my opinion, probably the awesomest green general. I mean, come on, he's so freaking badass, it's ridiculous. So his ability, which is part of the crux of this deck, is 3 for 1/1. Green mana doesn't empty from your mana pool, ever, as long as he's in play. And he gets 1+1 for each mana in your mana pool. So obviously the goal to make, if you want to make him really big and really strong, to get 21 commander damage in, then you're kind of going to be focused on trying to get a lot of mana, which will, as a side product, give you lots of other awesome stuff too. So he's amazing. He's the general of the deck. So, land base. We have Tranquil Thicket. It's a green mana, and it cycles for 1 green. So you can draw a card if you need to, which you, later game especially, you often do. I'm going to mention also, there's not a lot of almost all the lands produce green. The reason being is that I want to feed them into Omnath if they're not being used for something else. So there's only, I think, a couple of colorless focused lands. Otherwise, yeah. So we have Oran Reef the Vastwood. Comes up by tapped, adds a green, but you can put a 1/1 counter on a green creature entering the battlefield this turn. The reason why this is so good is that it works really well with persist creatures, because if you put a 1/1 counter on a persisting creature that comes into play, then it cancels the --/ counter, and it's as if they never persisted. So that you can persist again, and again, and again. So that's kind of like a little interesting fun fact. It also can make Omnath a 2/2, so someone can't just ping him off the second he hits play. So it's a nice land. Strip Mine destroys any target land. That's kind of why I'm putting it in here, even though it's not colorless, because in a 1v1 deck, if someone drops a Cabal Coffers for an infinite combo, you kind of want to be able to destroy it. You want to destroy things like Vesuva and other really good lands. So Strip Mine is nice. I don't have Wasteland, and it's not as good, so what can I do? Bujiju Shelters All, also colorless one. This can ensure some of your win cons, because if you tap into pay 2 life and add a colorless, if that colorless is added into your instant or sorcery spell, then that spell can't be countered. So I'll point out some of the later spells that it works really well with. Then you have Temple of the False God, Soul Ring on a land. It's nice to have just for the mana acceleration. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25, 26, 27 forests. So obviously you're going to be have a lot of search spells for basic land. It taps for green, so Omnath you feed it into. And yeah, lots of forests. I'm putting him in the front, even though he's kind of like, why are you starting with the 3-cost 3-drop? Reason why is because there's nothing he really necessarily works with. He's more just to have a 3-drop that's a creature, because he's a really strong creature, 3 for a 3/3, can't be countered, and pro blue and black. So early game you can get some damage in if you're playing against blue or black control stuff, and you can't counter him. So he's kind of just like, he's a really nice 3-drop if you can't hit Omnath, then for whatever reason, or you're playing against a deck that this would be preferable. There you go. All right, most everything else has a reason for being here. Like, it works with other stuff. So Birds of Paradise gets you your any color you need, hit it turn 1, then turn 2 you can get Omnath. Same thing with the Fyndhorn Elf, which is a Llanowar Elf, just old school. Then Llanowar Elf. Those 3 all tap for land, mana. Sakura-Tribe Elder is a good blocker, and you can also sack him anytime to search for a basic land accelerant. Wood Elves comes into play, put a forest into play from your deck, and shuffle your library. So even though it's 3 for a 1/1, it's a land drop. So you can block with him, and he gets you your land. Gyre Wildspeaker is the only planeswalker in here. I could have put other ones, but given that it's much preferred to try to get out some of your big guys or to pump Omnath up rather than dump your mana into the higher cost planeswalkers, he's kind of the most important because he untaps 2 target lands with his plus, and he can give overrun if you have a lot of tokens. But I mean, I assume I would put Primal Hunter if I could find room for him and he worked with the deck. I probably would put a Primal Hunter in here. But the newest Garruk, I can't really see how to fit him in here. But once again, those 2 planeswalkers are Garruk. Both other Garruks are really good too. I just can't find room for them or fit them in, and I don't even have them. So you can keep in mind if you want to edit the deck. If you want to build a deck like this and edit it, then go for it. Oracle Muldaya, he lets you play basically an additional land, and yeah, that's kind of why he's good. He lets you play an additional land, and if you reveal the top card and it's a land, you can put that into play, so it kind of gives you an accelerant. Seedguide Ash, nice blocker. People don't want to kill him because if you kill him, I get 3 forests into play tapped. So he's a really nice accelerant. He's a good deterrent for especially early game 1v1, and he gets you more land. Primeval, the biggest of the baddies of getting you sped up land, so he gets you 2 of any land. You can get your strip mine if you need, and he's just, I mean, come on, why wouldn't he be in here? And then spells that accelerate land, Explore, play an additional land, draw a card. Kodama's Reach and Cultivate, they both do the same thing. Land into play tapped and land into your hand, so good accelerant for 3. Darksteel Ingot kind of sticks around. It's indestructible, it gives you any color you need. It's indestructible, so it usually sticks around, and you can use it to pump Omnath every turn if you want. It's always good to have. Skyshroud Claim, one of the best land spells, land searching spells. It gives you 2 forests into play untapped for 4. So I prefer it to things like Explosive Vegetation. I just find it's more effective. Mana doublers, or things that really accelerate like crazy your mana pool. Make it to the Candelabra, tap X, tap, untap X target lands. Most people are like, 1 for 1/2 that does that? How is that useful? Well, if each land of yours produces, let's say 3 mana each time you tap it. So if you tap all your lands, you end up with a lot of mana, but then if you feed in, you untap, let's say you have 10 lands in play, and each one gives you 3, so you get 30 land, and then you feed 10 into him and tap him, he'll untap the lands and give you another 30, so you end up with 50, which is a mana doubler, basically, on a creature. And most people don't think about it that way, so usually you can get him off at least once. Doubling Cube literally doubles your mana. So you double your land, build Omnath up, and you can just double his power and toughness and your mana pool. They're just beastly. Extraplanar Lens. All the forests I had before should be snow forests. As I've mentioned in who knows how many videos, I'm looking to get 8 or 9 more snow forests to make them all snow forests, because then if you do that, Extraplanar Lens 90% of the time will only work for you, because you'll only imprint snow forest onto it, so snow forest will only tap for double. The problem with it, if you do have regular forest, is that if the other person has forest, it'll double theirs too. So, yeah, that's Extraplanar Lens. Awesome. This is funny. So, I have Vernal Bloom right now in the deck. Whenever a forest is tapped for mana, it produces an additional forest. So that's anybody. That's the problem. If you're playing in multiplayer or playing against a deck that has a bunch of green, let's say a 2-color deck that has green in it, you kind of don't want this in here. So if you don't, then I would put Solemn as a replacement. So they're kind of like alternates for each other. If you don't want to take the risk and you don't want to run Vernal Bloom, don't worry about it. You can just have Solemn instead. But otherwise, mana doublers are preferred to Solemn, even though some people are like, are you insane? Maybe I am, but believe me, you start seeing the mana doubling stuff going on, you're like, whoa. So Mana doubling is really powerful in this deck. So Seedborn Muse is basically a mana doubler. She untaps all your permanents every turn, meaning during every player's turn. So your turn she untaps, and their turn she untaps all permanents. So you can just untap all your mana and get more into Omnath. Or untap all your mana if you tap out, playing big guys or whatever. She's just absolutely awesome. Cage Sun, mana doubler. It only works for the one color you choose, and the 1+1 is kind of pointless, but it just doubles your mana. Mana Reflection is bonkers, because if you tap a permanent for mana, it produces twice as much, so you can do twice as much from any permanent, including lands and anything else you have that produces mana. So some destroy spells, so we have Beast Within, destroys any permanent. They get a 3/3, but no one cares in EDH. Destroys a permanent, and as green kind of needs that, so it's kind of like a version of Vindicate, except it's an instant for green, so it's awesome. Crows and Grip destroys an artifact or enchantment, the point of it being that it splits second, so you can't counter it. So if you're tapped down someone and you need to destroy an artifact or enchantment, for example, you can just pay off from Omnath's mana collection to play it, or you can just play it normally, but it can't be countered. Mold Shambler comes into play. You can pay the kicker and destroy target non-creature permanent. The reason I put him in instead of Indrik Stomp Howler is because he can destroy planeswalkers, who I've run into a lot in 1v1 decks. So if you want to be able to destroy planeswalkers, he's your man. Acidic Slime destroys artifact, enchantment, or land, which is very versatile in EDH. And the Death Touch is really nice, particularly later game when you have ways of pumping him up and people don't want to block him because you can kill their stuff. Okay, so here are some board wipe effects. Squall Line, X damage to each creature with flying in each player. So you can wipe out the board. It's an instant speed, which is why it's better than things like Hurricane. It can wipe the board of all flyers. So if you're playing against Dragon decks, for example, you kind of want to be able to knock them all out of the air. And also, I've had games where I rushed early game, got them down to like 15 or 20 life while I was on 30 or 40. And then if you just pay the mana, it deals damage to each player. So they're dead and you're not. And remember, this is one of the spells that Bushizu can make uncounterable because you pay a colorless. So if you really want to win the game that way, you can. All's Dust is the only board wipe in the deck, mostly because it's the only board wipe you can really fit into, the only Wrath that you can fit into mono green. Each player sacrifices all colored permanents. This is also really awesome because you're going to be running some Eldrazi and Blightsteel Colossus, so if you have them in play, then All's Dust won't kill them and kill everything else. So you can usually just win by playing this. Also, can make it uncounterable. Draw/control of what you draw. Divining Top, obvious. It just gives you control of the top cards. Sylvan Library, as I explained last time, it pretty much is a brainstorm every turn. You draw 3 and then put 2 of those 3 back. But you can also keep. So if you draw the 3 and you put the 2 back, instead of putting the 2 back, you can pay 4 life for each of those cards. And for each one you pay the 4 life for, you keep it in your hand. So if you have extra life and you really need to draw a bunch of cards, you basically can draw 3 cards off it. But it's an unbelievable card, and it's great. It's like an alternate Divining Top. It's a little expensive. I think this was like $10 or $12, and the Legends one's like $30. But if you can get it, then definitely use it. Greater Good, sack a creature, draw cards equal to the sacrifice creature power, and discard 3. So you can do this to, let's say, the guy who gets you 3 forest. I forgot his name already. He's the tree folk guy from before. So if you do it to him, you draw 4, discard 3, but you get 3 lands. And you can do this to bigger guys, you can do this to tokens. It's a very nice draw card. Or draw effect. And it's constant because it's an enchantment, so it's hard to kill, and most people don't bother, and you can always draw. Also, someone board wipes or you board wipe, you can sack the creatures to draw your cards you want. Tutors, you have Green Sun Zenith, which this deck has primarily green creatures that you're going to pay it for. And you can make it uncounterable, it puts into play, and you can reuse it. Good tutor. Worldly Tutor puts a creature on top of your deck for 1. So let's say turn 1 you don't get one of your land, your, Birds of Paradise, any of your 1-drop people. You can go grab them with him to kind of help you accelerate. Or you can get big guys, whatever. It just gets a creature and puts it on top. So it's a solid tutor. There's a lot of creatures here, so. Graveyard stuff. This is kind of versatile. You can either get a land in your hand if you're low, or you can put a creature back in your hand from your graveyard, or give, let's say, Omnath flying and win the game. So it's just a very versatile card to have. Return any card from your graveyard to your hand for 2. Good card. Eternal Witness, it just gets you something you need back. And it's a nice 3-drop creature alongside the Great Stag, Sable Stag. It's another 3-drop. Genesis lets you put creatures back from your graveyard into your hand, and people don't want to kill it, so you can, if he gets through and you do one of your pumping spells, you can do a lot of damage with him. And if he dies, he only helps you more, so he's nice. And Praetor's Council, which you kind of use mid to late game to get all your stuff back into your hand, and also lets you your hand size increase permanently. So there's no Reliquary Tower in here, and you never really need it, but it's kind of like an alternate to Reliquary Tower. So these are the get stuff into play fast or faster. So Allurin, pretty much any player can play a creature card with mana cost 3 or less whenever as an instant without paying the mana cost. So even though it helps your opponent, given that you're the one who has Omnath, let's say they kill Omnath, it goes to your command zone, you can play him for free because the 2 additional cost doesn't count in his converted mana cost. It's the additional commander cost. So if I'm pretty sure it doesn't count. So you can play him immediately back as an instant, and he costs nothing. So if you have like 100 mana in your mana pool and he dies, you just bring him right back, and the mana doesn't go anywhere because you bring him back within the same phase step, so it doesn't go anywhere. So it's a really powerful card. It lets you keep Omnath alive, and it's monstrous. Most decks have no reason to use it besides, I mean, you have Omnath. Defense of the Heart, a card that I haven't seen in a lot of decks. Pretty much during your upkeep, if one of your opponents controls 3 or more creatures, you sack this, and then you put 2 creatures from your deck into play. So you have it turn 4, or turn 3 you get it out. He has a couple of small guys, utilities. He can't really have them die easily. Then next turn you sack it, Blightsteel, Ulamog, turn 5. Or turn 4 even. It's a really powerful card. It's an enchantment. It's hard to kill for a lot of decks, and it speeds up your getting your big guys out really, really fast. Tooth and Nail, pretty much the same thing as Defense of the Heart, except it doesn't need to have 3 creatures. You just pay the 9, search your deck for 2 creatures, and put them into play, or you can just tutor them into your hand, or put 2 creatures from your hand to play for 7. It's just it allows you to get big guys out for cheaper, so it's nice. And then a beater, who's also a accelerator, Musician of Life's Web, 9 for an 8/8. She's indestructible because she has a divinity counter on her. You take out the divinity counter, put any number of creatures from your hand to play. So you dump like an Ulamog and Blightsteel into play at the cost of her indestructibility. Kind of worth it. Then you have Protector/Trampler. Omnath doesn't have Trample, which is kind of his biggest flaw. So you have things like Rancor. I'm wondering, we're getting kind of out. There we go, sorry. I'll move this forward. I realize the deck has kind of gotten out of reach of the lens. So Rancor gives 2+0 on Trample, and it comes back into play whenever the creature dies, so you can replay it over and over again on your big guys who don't have Trample. Vines of Vastwood protects Omnath, protects any of your big guys, and can boost up. Canopy Cover gives evasion and hexproof. So even though I don't like enchant creatures so much, particularly in this deck, this one's just kind of freaking amazing, so I decided to put it in here. So for boots, it's boots, haste, and hexproof. Why not? Lightning Greaves, same thing, except Shroud, but awesome. Death Mantle, given that you usually have a bunch of mana sitting in Omnath, to pay the 4 when he would go to the graveyard and bring him back for that 4 is totally worth it. It can save basically all your fatties from going to the graveyard. This says when it would go to the graveyard, you pay 4 and it goes back to play instead. It also gives 2+2 and Intimidate, so if you're not playing a green deck, Omnath can equip to it and be unblockable, or near unblockable. So it's a very powerful card. Very useful. Asceticism protects all your creatures, allows you to regenerate. Pretty self-explanatory. So fatties, we have the anti-flyer fatties. So Arashi, pretty much she lets you ping flyers, or you can channel her out of your hand for like Squall Line and you discard her, pay Squall Line's cost, X damage to each creature with flying, so it's just another way to knock guys out. 5 for a 5/5, really strong. Steel Hellkites, not really, it's more of a flyer deterror for early game flying, and it can destroy tokens, it can Fire Breathe, or Colorless Breathe, Dragon Breathe, and it's just a really nice beater. Tornado Elemental hits play, 6 damage to each creature with flying, so it usually wipes the board of most everything. And it can also do its damage as though it wasn't blocked, so if it attacks and he blocks with a weenie, you can just deal 6 directly, or 6 or more directly. So you can't really avoid it, even though it doesn't have trample, you can't really avoid the hit. It kind of reminds me of Thorn Elemental, which was my first foil rare. Kind of does the same thing, but this one's more effective here. Kamal Fistakroza, he's really nice, especially late game, because you can accelerate, make some of your lands 1/1s, make them bigger, but you can also do target land becomes a 1/1 creature. So if you do something, if you do a board wipe, you can make their lands into creatures, and then they die, which is awesome. Or yeah, it's really nice. And I forgot, there's another thing that, this is another reason why I really like his target land, but I can't remember what at the time right now. Maybe I'll put it in annotation if I remember. And he gives Overrun as many times as you want for 5, so he's really strong. Balla, pretty much you'll be playing lots of lands, sometimes multiples of lands, so you just get lots of 4/4s. And then one of my win conditions, if you have enough guys out, just having enough guys out usually, so you win the game. So 6 for 6 trample with that is really good. Then we have Spearbreaker Behemoth. No trample, but he's indestructible, and then target creature with power 5 or greater becomes indestructible. So you can save Omnath, you can save any of your guys, any of your big fatties who aren't indestructible with his ability. So he's really, really strong. And you can give like Rancor to him to make him have trample if you want. He's really good. Avenger of Zendikar, now shiny. Shiny edition. He's just a massive beater. Unless you have a board wipe, he usually means game over when he hits the board, because he puts 01 plant creatures into play for each land you have, and then landfall. Every time you landfall, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. They all get a 1/1 counter on them. Each one gets a 1/1 counter on them. And quickly, like 3 or 4 turns later, they're all 4/4, 5/5s, and then they interact with a win condition and you win, assuming they even can handle the rush. Woodfall Primus destroys a non-creature permanent when it hits play, and it has Persist, so you can use Ornreath the Vastwood and they kill it, comes back persisted, Ornreath the Vastwood, and it never died in the first place. But you destroyed another creature, and then it persists again, and hopefully you never lose him. He's really powerful. Terastodon, pretty much the same thing as Woodfall Primus, except he does 3 non-creature permanents. Though they get 3/3 beasts for each one. It's kind of like 3 times Beast Within for non-creature permanents. But 8 for 9/9 is a nice body, particularly for some of the win conditions, and it destroys lots of annoying artifacts, enchantments, lands, etc. The big guys. We have Kozilek, who, assuming you usually can cast him, he's only 10 mana after all, and with Omnaths and the doubling in mana, usually can just cast him out for the drawing. But even if you play him directly, he's still a 12/12 Annihilator 4, so he's huge. Ulamog, he's the guy you kind of want to target with the Defense of the Heart or Tooth and Nail. He Annihilator, so he also destroys a permanent when he hits. He's indestructible, 10/10. There's like nothing bad. There's nothing you can be said that's bad about him. He's just awesome. He's so awesome. He like breaks the card. You see, he like breaks the frame of the art. He's that awesome. Nothing else to be said. He's just awesome. And Blightsteel Colossus, shiny edition. Or he is an 11/11 trample infect, indestructible. You play him, people absolutely panic. If they don't have an answer, you win. That's about all there is to say with him. He's awesome. Alternate win conditions or win combinations. Here, I'll zoom in so you can see. So Helix Pinnacle, it's an enchantment with Shroud. You play it turn 1, tap X to put X counters on it. Once that's 100, as in your upkeep, if it has 100, you win the game. So if you mana doubling into Omnath, you just dump it into this, and in like 2 turns you win. or you can even build up over the course of the game. It's a nice card to have. It's hard to kill. People get really pissed because most decks don't have destroy all enchantments, especially not 1v1 decks. And you can just win the game from here. Oh, the Gemstone, a super underrated card. Most people don't even know it exists. It is... Okay. Sorry. It's 3 for an enchantment that during each player's upkeep, that player chooses a color. Until end of turn, every mana producing land has to produce that chosen color instead of its normal color. So if you're playing against a 3+ color deck, during your turn, and you choose green, the only mana they can produce is green. So good luck countering spells. And during their turn, they can only pick 1 color for all their lands to produce. So if they are playing 3 or more color, they're kind of screwed. I mean, this is... I've had games where I just play this turn 3, and then the game's over. Because they have no way to really answer it, because they're playing a multicolor deck. And even if you're playing a mono deck, it basically keeps them focused. They can counter, they have trouble destroying during your turn, and so on. Sorry about that. Cut off. But there's nothing... It's ridiculously crazy. You have to see it to believe it. It's amazing. Then we have another win condition, Triumph of the Hordes. Basically, you have lots of little guys. You give them all trample, +1/+1, and infect, and you win. That's it. Like, you attack with 10 5/5s, make them all 6/6 tramples with infect. You win the game. That's it. Overwhelming Stampede, kind of the same thing. You have an Ulamog in play, a bunch of tokens, a bunch of guys. They get X+X and trample, where X+X is the greatest power, so they all get 10/10 and trample. Once again, you usually just win the game. And these spells, since they're all instant sorceries, you can feed these all into Bujiju so they can't be countered. Which means, as I said, you basically win the game because it's almost impossible to stop them. Genesis Wave, usually this goes off for like 12 to 15. So, even though you might have to discard some spells from it, just the amount of land you get from it, plus all the crazy creatures and everything, unless they have an instant answer the next turn, usually Genesis Wave just means you win the game. And Gelatinous Genesis, kind of like an awkward ending. Pretty much it's a mana dump if you want to just get a horde of guys and you have 20 mana lying around or 15 mana or whatever. It just allows you to put XXX tokens into play. Usually I'm running out for 5 to 10, 5 to 5/5s or 10/10s, like between 5 and 10 usually, number wise, and it kills. So that's basically the Omnath deck. A lot of the interactions are pretty straightforward. There's no infinite combos. Then again, it's hard to do combos in Omnath, the badass of mana. It's kind of hard to do combos, but that's my build. I'm missing a couple of cards I would consider putting in. Say Rofellos. He is a crazy land mana creator. I would love to have one of him. Concording Crossroads gives your guys all haste, so if you want to dump it, and that way when you play Omnath, he can attack instantly. It's a really nice card. I don't have it yet either. And there's a number of other cards you can mix and match in here, but this is my build of Omnath. 1v1 deck. I guess, yeah, that's the deck. If you have any questions or you want to build a deck like this and you want to hear my playtesting or hear my thoughts on your deck, feel free to let me know. Maybe send me a private message or comment below in the video. And thanks for watching. Rate, comment, subscribe.